Welcome to the Agape Podcast. I'm Beck, a passionate, sold-out lover of Jesus who accidentally started a Christian singles ministry, and now I want to help as many people as possible to find their husband or wife while being super healthy and full of hope. So get ready for some real, raw talk about all things singleness and dating. Going live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our men's panel. I am joined by the amazing Leif, Darren, Michael. Oh, and no one else. I didn't pause, so it seemed like there was someone. Marcus is going to be joining us, but he is jumping on in a couple minutes. So we are really excited to join you guys in the Revivalist group. As you know, we answer questions that you guys have. So if you do have any, feel free to comment below. I have some to kind of get the ball rolling. But I thought you guys, if you've watched the last few lives, which I really recommend you do, you've probably gotten to know these guys a little bit. So today I wanted to ask you guys to introduce yourselves with two cool things, fun facts, something that's happened in the last week or so that people would like to know about you. So, Darren, if you want to start, what's two fun, cool things that has happened in your past week?
Two fun, cool things. Wow, Beck, you had to pick me.
Yeah.
You went prepared, so I was pick all the time you want, so Leif and I have some time.
You know, like what was going on in my mind, I was like, yeah, she's not going to pick me. Please don't pick me. Wait, is she going to? And you did.
You're
and
at
I'm
the
like,
top of
okay.
my screen, and you came first on the call, so you were always front of mind.
All right. Something cool that happened in the last week. Well, this may not seem like, something super cool to y'all, but like I've been able to travel down south to be closer to my daughters for a time, and I'm looking at some places to stay. So it's fun for me. Don't know that would be fun for y'all, but it's fun for me to be able to just get out of my my little bubble in West Texas and come down to South Texas. Really, I just love traveling in general, so that has been good. The other thing, reconnected with some family yesterday. And what was interesting is like, we were just gonna like jam out together and just play a little bit of music. Well, we started worshiping, and well, you guys know how it is whenever you're a revivalist and you just start practice worshiping. Like all of a sudden you're like in the presence, and it's like, I was supposed to just practice.
Yep.
But yeah,
that is so real.
Good. It was really good.
I love it.
Yes, Marcus is coming.
Marcus is joining. He's just popped up into the screen.
I'm sorry.
Awesome. Okay, so while he gets situated, how about Michael Austin? Do you want to go next?
Sure. So,
hey, Marcus, we're just introducing ourselves with two fun, cool facts from the last week or so. Okay, Michael, go for it.
So, like I was saying earlier, I teach and was over at school yesterday for the first time this fall, and was talking to one of the other professors. And anyway, he was telling me that he's gearing up for this semester, and he's read 13 of the 16 chapters in this book that he's teaching, and he's kind of stressing because he's not quite done yet. And he asked me what I'm teaching for the fall, and I told him, actually, I don't even know what I'm teaching this year, because my boss and I are still kind of grappling through like what classes I'm going to have and everything. So yeah, kind of exciting and nerve-wracking and everything that we're a couple weeks from the start of the semester, and I don't even know what I'm teaching. And my coworkers over here are stressing that he's still has 3 more chapters to get through in his book to prep for the whole semester, and I don't even have a book yet for the semester. So
so you're like, I'm chilling. I don't even have any stress.
I'm not stressed. It'll be good. I've got 3 weeks.
Yeah, there'll be a time for that, but it is not now. I love it.
Yeah. So, and the other thing I would say that's been cool is one of my roommates introduced me to the Millionaire Morning routine. And so basically these successful businessmen have sort of their morning routines and what they do every morning and every evening just to set themselves up for success for the day, and started doing some of that. And it's actually been really good. One of the things he says, write it out. So that way in the morning when you wake up and you're not sure what your plan is, you go back and you look at your list and you know what you're doing. And it's been really good because mornings I'm not at my sharpest. So it just takes me back to, all right, what am I doing? I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. And it's really helped just kind of get my day off to a good start. So that's been really good.
Love it. So good.
Awesome.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Leif, you've had time to think. What are your two?
Yes. So I've got two things. And
that's good, because that's the number
I was actually at a function last night with Michael, this Wednesday night group, and Michael actually and this other, and some friends of his threw a pool party. And so I'm a part of Michael's Wednesday night small group. So he just decided to do a pool party. And I have not had, and I have to preface this by saying, I have not had a back rub in 2 years. It's been a long time. And there was a woman there that was just sort of like teaching other girls how to do a back rub, and I got to be the guinea pig. And I didn't cop one. I wasn't begging one. It was just like I was in the right place at the right time, and I got a back rub, and it was so great. And it was my love language to have a back rub. So like I literally left that meeting feeling like $1 million. So Michael, Thank you for planning that. That was huge. So that's the first thing. And like I said, I'm not the kind of person to, oh, can you rub my shoulders? I'm not that kind of guy. So 2 years is a long time. So the second thing is I'm actually on my way to Oregon right now to officiate my goddaughter's wedding. And that to me is a huge honor. And so she called me and asked me if I'd officiate it. So we've been kind of planning it and stuff. So I get to do a ceremony this weekend. So I'm really, really, really excited to be able to serve her and her fiance. So those are the two cool things for me. Kind of different, but no,
cool. I love it. And honestly, like when I was single, a back rub would go really far because you don't have anyone to like there all the time to be like, please, it's different when you get married and you get to enjoy that. But when I was single, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't remember the last time somebody looked after me when I was sick, or like, just hugged and held, like did like, and especially when physical touch is your love language. So that's totally huge. I totally get that.
Check. It was huge. I just felt so loved and valued. I mean, I honestly felt like I'm going to get a card for this person and say, thank you for, you just have no idea what it meant. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Don't worry, Marcus. We will get to you. Marcus is trying to get our attention. Check. Oh, yeah. Just checking my mic. Is this on? Okay. Becky,
yeah, I'm just checking my mic.
It's my turn. Okay, Marcus, we're getting to you. Tell us your two things. And now it's not working. Was that a joke? We can't hear you now.
Wait, what are we doing?
Oh, there we go.
No, what are we doing now?
So 2 things that have been cool in your last week or so.
Oh man, can you go with? Can Darren go?
Everyone's gone. You're the last one. That's why we were like, what we're doing, and we gave you time to think. So right, I'll go first because I have 2, and then we'll come to you.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so my 2 cool things. First one, this isn't from the last. This is like 2 weeks, I think now. We got a puppy, and he's so cute, and he's already pretty much toilet trained. And it's amazing. Within like 4 days, he was toilet trained. So it's like a massive blessing. He doesn't do accidents. He's really, really like docile. He like just loves snuggles. But we're pretty sure now that we brought him home that the breed they told us isn't actually accurate. We're pretty sure he's like part Great Dane because he's like humongous and he's 4 months. People think he's like fully grown. We're like, no, he's 4 months old. We're like, what have we done? So that's the first thing. And then the second really cool thing is we've kind of been committed. We started a healthcare like program, a health and wellness program. Like actually, when I say we, Nick started it, and within how long was it? So we're under Havler and Ben Cunnington have kind of been like mentoring us, and literally Nick hit day 7. We were like really committed to like, let's be healthy. Like, we've been eating better. We feel incredible. We have so much energy. And he lost 12 pounds on day 7. Like we weighed him and he lost 12 pounds in 7 days. So we've just been really enjoying like getting healthier and not eating out. And our bodies are like, woohoo, I'm alive again. So yeah, I feel like America was kind of destroying me a little bit in that way, and so it's nice to like come back to like, clean eating, greens. So yeah, we've been like kind of thriving a little bit in the last 2 weeks, so it's been pretty good. All right, Marcus, how about you?
Okay, 2 things. So today found out that I'm going to be moving in with 4 other dudes, and we got a house, so that's super exciting.
Cool.
and then I'll be able to get a motorcycle and stuff like that. So that's really fun. And then today, I recently rehomed my dog Nala, and that was really hard, but very good and needed. But I got a video today from her new owner, and Nala was actually pretty dog aggressive, and they have a dog there, and she sent me this video of them playing together today for the first time. And it was like so cool, because I never thought that I would ever see that like happen. And like, it made me cry, because I was just like so proud of her, of Nala, for like growing like that. And like now she has a friend that she's actually playing with. I never thought that she'd be able to play like that, because she just didn't know what to do, but she did. She's doing it now. It's so exciting. It's like, and I was like, man, I can imagine when I'm like a dad. Oh, I'm gonna be a wreck.
I love it. I love your heart, Marcus. I love that just makes you well up, because I know how much you loved her and how hard it was for you to, give her up, but to actually give her a family and give her an opportunity to be with a family that will love her and give her the attention that she needs. I'm like, I know that how hard that was for you, but I love that. Yeah, that's part of being a dad too, is making tough calls. I mean, obviously as a child would be different. You wouldn't rehome them, but I would hope. But you know what I mean? Like, I love that you're already like growing and like, practicing those fatherly things and caring for your child. So yeah, guys, those were all incredible. I want to start off. We've asked a lot of questions in these panels, but I have a few to throw at you. So I just want to dive straight in. Okay. So get your thinking caps on. We've already prayed. We've asked Holy Spirit for wisdom. I want to know, guys, how can a girl tell if a guy is not into her? So if look at Dara's face, he was all happy, and then he was like, oh man. So she's like, hey, I think he's really cool. I don't know if you guys have seen that movie. He's just not that into you. Where the whole movie, she thinks like she's super into this guy. She thinks that he likes her, and he's like, no. And then again, like, it's a romantic comedy, so it comes full circle, and he actually does like her. But real life doesn't always happen that way. So from your experience as the male gender, how can a woman know, say she likes you, how would she know if the guy isn't reciprocating those feelings? What are some telltale signs? Yes, Darren. Just go for it. You don't have to raise your hand, but I love that you wanted to do that.
Yeah. I wanted to honor the system that you had in place.
It's so good.
No, for me, so there was two ways I've seen it played out in my life. The first way was pre-Jesus. The second way was after Jesus. There was BC and then there was AD. But before really like growing in Christ, it was more just like, I was afraid of like confronting her or telling her. So like, it was always like, I've just got to suppress that I know that she likes me, but I'm totally not into her. So I had to be super nice to her. If she asked me, hey, do you want to go do this? Even though like I didn't have feelings for her, still went and did it, still did all of these things with her, knowing that she was into me and I completely wasn't. So now if I feel or sense that someone's into me, I'll make sure to tell them, hey, just so you know, I think you're amazing, but I don't see you any more than a friend. And that's how I would do it now. Now, here's the thing, though. Here's the catch. We don't always do it perfectly like that. It's not always perfect, but that's what we strive. The other question I would follow up with that is, if a woman is trying to figure out whether or not a guy is into her or not, I would say just, hey, be straight up and ask him. I mean, I honestly, there's no shame in that. I mean, if a woman would have ever asked me, hey, are you into me at all? If I'm being honest and like she actually wants to know, and I feel like she's in a good spot to know that, I'll just tell her like, look, I think you're awesome. I love hanging out with you, but I don't see you, any more than that. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times like I haven't seen it. Actually, no, I've seen it play out once in my life really well. where her and I were still able to remain friends and things like that, because that's the main thing. You don't want to kill the friendship just because these feelings have come up. Actually, no, twice. I take that back. Twice that's played out in my life, and it's been great. Like we're still able to talk. We're still friends. They saw me, they didn't see me. They just had feelings for me more than just being a friend, and I didn't have those feelings. I hope that answers your question a little bit.
It does. I love that. I think the slant I'm more going towards is, sorry, Nick just bought me some turkey bacon. I didn't realize it was in my hand until I gestured, and then I realized it wasn't on camera. I was gonna try and like sneeze.
Turkey bacon. Share with us.
Yeah, we're trying to be good, and we're allowed to have a little bit of turkey bacon. So it was like we're trying to be healthier, But I forgot it was in my hand, and I'm so gestury. But yeah, I was literally gonna be like, "Hachu!" Oh no, like because I'm like it's sitting right here. You came and put it next to me. Anyway, no, I love what you were saying. And before I keep going, I just want to welcome Brandon, who's just jumped on. Brandon is one of our awesome friends. He's an incredible man of God. We love him. Brandon, we're just talking about how a girl can know if a guy is not interested. And so I love what you were saying, Darren, is like ask them or they will tell you. But I think what I was more going towards is, okay, say then the guy is not super, in our culture, in our environment, we really emphasize men stepping out and stepping up and be, communicative. But not every culture is like that. Not every culture will see a woman who's like, oh yeah, I'm going to just go and ask and it's going to be cool. So what are some ways that she can tell without, obviously communicating is best, asking is best, him saying something, her asking, that is best case scenario. But say we're not in best case scenario. What are some things that he's doing that is showing her this that she should be picking up on, but maybe is missing? Is that a better way of phrasing it? Maybe. He keeps bringing me bacon. Yes.
Go for
Michael,
a leaf.
I think Michael was waving first, and then how about the leaf?
Okay. So I think one of the things that there.
Touch that. Touch you.
I think it's good to see everything in context, right? Like, so I think if a woman sees how a man behaves towards other women, then she can get a context of the way he's treating her, right? And if he's treating her the same as he's treating everybody else, well, I would take that as there's a sign he's probably not interested. He might be, but he may be seeing you the same way he sees everybody else. So I think, especially when we're seeing a lens through, I like this person and I want to find a reason and I want to find affirmation that he likes me back. We can misinterpret things that if we don't have that lens, we might be able to see more clearly. So like I said, I think kind of comparing like, how is he treating me compared to how is he treating other women, gives us a little bit of context. Something else I think is if the woman's having to continually be the one that's initiating and pursuing, usually he's not that interested. If she's the one that's continually, hey, do you want to do this? And he's not available or, sporadically available. I think somebody was just referencing, Darren was just saying how, there'd be times where there'd be a woman that was interested in him and he wasn't interested in her, but he would still do stuff with her. If she's having to do most of the initiating and being proactive about things, there's a good chance too that he's not that interested. So really, if he's interested, he should be the one that's stepping up and pursuing. And sometimes, men need a little bit of encouragement, but at the same time, if it's consistently her that's doing it, then I think that's usually a good sign that he's not that interested.
Yeah, that's a really good one. Really like that. Leif, what were you going to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to parry off what Michael said. I think the best litmus test is, do they want to spend time with me consistently going forward? Because, and the reason I say this is because the culture of not reading a TV, it ought to be hard for guys and girls to read it because we're so caring about honor and kindness and those kinds of things. It ought to be hard. It ought to be challenging because, I know a lot of wonderful guys that you'll never know they're not interested in you simply because they're going to smile at you, they're going to give you time, they're going to give you presents, they're going to open doors for you, and they're going to do this just because you're a woman or just because you're a believer or a person even. And so I think how time shared time going forward when it's asked for is really the biggest litmus test, because the person that's interested romantically is going to make time for you, and you may not always be able to read it into their smile or the way that they give you time when they talk with you. And I think a lot of men and women can be deceived sometimes. You can meet a really wonderful person, they're going to have a great conversation with you, they're going to engage you. You might read that as they like me, and they actually don't. They're just honoring you as a lover of Jesus. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, so good. Really love that. Does anyone have anything to add to that before we move on to the next question? Yeah, Brandon, go for it, bud. Oh, hang on, you're muted. You just got to unmute yourself. I love it though. You had a full speech ready to go.
I think I agree with, was it Leif? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Did I say that right? Yeah. I was raised and taught basically to treat all women with respect and, you know, a certain amount of intentionality. Like I'll open doors for my mom, my sister, random girl. Like I'll treat everybody with the same level of honor. But if I'm interested, I really will have to, hi, Nick, I will have to just expressly communicate. And like somebody said, hey, like making time, showing some intentionality, that's just the best way I know how to do it. I don't like the gray area, the not knowing. So I think there was a lot of good stuff that I just would say I agree with. Is like, hey, to a certain extent, maybe it should be hard because we should treat all women with respect, regardless if we're interested or not, because they have value. I hope that makes sense. It's my thought.
Yeah, so good. I feel like that actually leads me into what I was going to ask as the next question. So I'd love to ask you guys, what's the biggest way you've seen women, or biggest areas you've seen women like receive mistreatment that maybe has annoyed you, or like I want to phrase this well so you understand what I mean. Like, oh, I'm consistently seeing women, you know, being okay with guys flaking on them, or I'm seeing this, and it's actually, you know, not that you guys would ever do things like this, but you know, other people in our environments, like, oh, and they're putting up with it. They're putting up with bad behavior from the men who are in their lives or out pursuing them. What are some of the, I guess, bad behaviors that you've seen a lot of Christian women putting up with? That you think like makes you go, oh, they could do better than this, or they don't deserve this. They actually, you know, they need a guy that is this, and this, and not like how this guy's treating them. Does that make sense?
I can touch on that.
Go for it, Marcus.
So, I mean, obviously it depends on every person. Some, like, I'm very extroverted. So so me personally, when I see a couple at like a party or something, and the guy is like not talking to anybody, and he's very standoffish, and he's not fun to be around, he's not interested in me even really being there, that's where I'm like, hey, like, what are you even doing here? You know, like why would you want to be with someone like that? You can't take places, they're not going to make friends with people, they're not personable. But I mean, that's just me. Some girls are more introverted, and they don't want someone like me who, you know, is kind of the life of the party, and like, you know, makes things happen. Some women want that like subdued, more quiet person. But that's, so from my perspective, I don't understand that, because I don't connect with that. It doesn't make sense to me. So yeah, and then also just guys that don't have any drive to do anything. They just, you know, play video games all day. I play video games, but all day long, like just watch, like they don't want to do anything. You know, it's just, they're just kind of just chilling, walking through life.
Yeah, no, I like those. Those are really good ones. And they are ones that a lot of people settle for, like, oh, it's okay. Or, you know, maybe he'll change, you know? So I really like those. Does anybody else have anything to contribute to that?
I'd like to add to what Marcus was just saying, because it's extremely important. He touched on it, and is the whole video game thing. You know, they play video games all day, or they'll do that. They'll have their thing that they do. What I have seen is, you know, where guys put this thing in front of, you know, making sure that their spouse or their girlfriend, their fiance, making sure that her needs are met. So he's more concerned with getting his needs met versus getting hers. And it's very easy to do, even when you're transitioning from being single to being together, because you're so used to having to get, like, you legit need to get your needs met. Like, it's a thing. I get that. But whenever you're transitioning from being single to actually having a relationship, it shifts. Because if y'all are working together, she should be helping you get your needs met, and you should be helping her get her needs met.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that I'm not saying that all of Beck's needs are completely on your husband, and his completely on you. That's not what I'm saying. But there's an exchange that happens whenever you transition. So that was number one. You know, and I guess just selfishness in general. Like, I don't understand why women put up with men that are so selfish.
Yeah.
I'm like, he's not going to be a great husband. You need to find you someone that's like wanting to put you first and wanting to do things for you. Like, hey, I will take care of my own whenever, if I have got to get 4 hours of sleep so that way I can do 2 hours in the gym, because the rest of the hours I was doing things for you, that's what I need to do. That's what I'm called to do. You know, that's just the way I see it. I don't know. I could be wrong, but that's just the way I see it. I'm like, look, your needs are back seat right now. Her needs are front seat. And that goes to a certain extent. But anyways, the other thing that I'm
passionate about it. Come on, keep going.
I'm super passionate about that, because I have
good.
2 daughters, and I'm like, I'm not gonna have any guy just like, oh, you know, you take care of yourself. And I'm like, no, sir, they are way too more valuable. They're way more valuable than that. Mm-hmm. But anyways, the other thing that I was going to say was what I felt was really big on my heart, and I just forgot about it. It had to do with, oh goodness, what was it? I guess it kind of ties in with the whole, just like the whole selfishness, like, you know, like taking care of self versus, you know, putting the woman first. And this is what it was. Oh, this is another big one. And I know all you guys on this panel are gonna be like, yes, but like not allowing like the female to have a voice, like not even like supporting.
I don't agree with that.
Oh my God, Marcus is not allowed on any future panels, guys.
I'm like, I guess he hasn't met Jesus. That's all right, guys. We'll pray for him after the meeting.
We'll pray for you after this.
Yeah, we'll pray for you after this. Beck, would you mind doing that for him?
Oh yeah, no, I will.
No, but like, it is such a thing, and I'm sure y'all have seen it. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, it's whatever the man says goes. That's it. Like, you know, the woman, you know, yeah, she can have a little bit to say, but it's really just so that way she can hear herself speak. And he's not really even listening to her speak. It's just so that she can hear herself make her point. And I'm like, dude, that's not the way it works. You know, you both, it's so interesting how Paul says the two become one. He didn't say the lesser became together with the greater. He said the two became one. And he doesn't make no real distinction on, well, this one's not really that great and this one's kind of okay. No, it's just the two became one. And for me, what I see is she's a part of me. She's a part of me. Her and I are a unit. So what she says, it matters. So that's what I would say. Just like allowing females to have a voice, and like just like championing them. You know, they're not second
servants
to you. Yeah, they're not servants.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Love that. I can tell you're so passionate. You have 2 little girls and he's passionate about this. I love it. Does anyone else?
Yeah, the selfishness is huge, because like if you have something, if like a guy, I've seen it so many times, and like a guy like wants to go fishing or something, this girl like wants to has like an event, and they like won't give up fishing. It's like, what are you doing, dude? Yeah.
Come on. Yep. And that could relate to a lot of different things too. 100%. Love it. Does anyone
Now,
else
if it's all the time or you never get to go fishing, that's one thing. But
yeah,
like if there's a big event, you know, like, no. Sacrifice.
Yep. Love it. Anyone else? Brandon, did you have something to say? He's like, whoa, you're muted still.
My roommate was just saying goodbye to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're so funny. Does anyone else have anything to add on that before we go to the next question?
I'd like to jump in for a minute.
Go for it, Michael. Take it away.
One thing I've seen is that a lot of women in the church, because the number of men and women, they have a belief that they're not gonna be able to find a Christian man. And so I've seen them go out with men that weren't Christian, and just really being willing to compromise on that. And I think I don't know if it's not feeling like they're worthy, or just thinking that, well, I'm not gonna be able to find a good Christian man, so I should just settle for a guy that doesn't have any faith. And and then that usually leads to other compromises. And ultimately it's like we should be pulling each other closer to the Lord, not from him. And I can't imagine being able to be married to someone that's not a believer and have that strength in your faith. I mean, I just think it would be a continual tug of war where you're married to someone that hopefully one of the biggest parts of your life, they're just not supportive of, and they just don't understand. So I know, you look at the numbers and the numbers don't look great, but at the same time, I think that's something that, talks about not being unequally yoked. And I just think that's something that women shouldn't compromise on.
Yeah. No, I love that. I feel like some of you guys touched on, when one person is getting all of their needs met, like for instance, you were saying like when the guy's getting all their needs met, but they're not really like focusing on the girl and being like, hey, how can I also like help to meet some of your needs like in a healthy way? And so I think another really good question is, how can a woman tell if a guy is just using her to meet his emotional needs? So he's not necessarily committing, they're getting to know each other, but he's getting a lot of things out of her without wanting to commit. I mean, I guess that's one way of telling too, right? But what would be some really big like warning signs, red flags of like, oh, he's actually not into you, he really just likes having you around and is getting what he needs from you?
Well,
I would say the easiest.
Go for it, one
Go
of
ahead,
you.
Leif.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead. I'll go second. Go ahead.
All right. I would say one of the biggest is just him not putting anything forward. It's that's the easiest way to tell. Like, is he asking you, hey, can I get you this? Hey, can I take you out to eat? Hey, can I buy? That's one of the biggest things. Like, I love that women are, real independent, on the early on stages. But like, if he doesn't at least offer to pay the first time that y'all go out to eat, I'm just like, I would be real careful. Be real careful after that, especially after y'all already discussed that y'all like each other and things like that. Like, he should kind of already be like, hey, I'd love to pay for you, or I'd love to do this, or I'd love to do that. Those are things that like I hear my parents say. Like, my dad says to my mom, hey, I'd love to. It's, all those things that he'd love to do for her.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're not hearing that, that's like a pretty big sign, a really big sign that he's not into you.
Yeah.
And he's just using you.
Love it. Oh, Marcus went and got his bang. Come on.
Yeah, I was just going to add, if you look at the whole dating process in general, dating is the intentional, slow release of trust. It's the slow release of trust. It doesn't happen all at once. It happens, depending on whether the date's a blind date or whatever. There's a little bit of trust. You have an increment of trust at the beginning. And every successive date, the goal is to be able to increase that trust. And with that requires a boy and girl, or a man or woman, to be able to offer opportunities to grow trust in the moment. So it's hard to think of a scenario where you would know that up front. I think what you have to do is engage it one step at a time. You engage a little bit of trust the next time, and then you offer an opportunity for trust to be grown the second time, and the third time, and fourth time, and that's how you kind of build on it. I just don't know if there's a way to know that what their motivation is until it's borne out over time. It just would be really, really hard. I mean, the Lord would have to give you something prophetic to say, well, this man or woman is not trustworthy. But I think just practically, I think you'd have to just release bits of trust opportunity for them to see whether they fail or succeed. That's what I would say.
Yeah, that's really good. Candace Watkins says that's good, Leif, a slow release of trust. I really like how you put that. I actually, while you were talking, it made me think, I would love to know, guys, say you are married and you have a daughter who's of dating age. What kind of Christian man would you, like maybe men you've seen in the church, would you absolutely never want them to date? What are some of the red flags that you'd be looking at as a father and being like, nope, not dating that person, sorry?
That's a good question. I said, in my head, I said me before I actually knew Jesus.
Yeah. I think we'll probably all say that. Me before, even for my sons, I'm like, me before I knew Jesus. No. But
this was while I was going to church, though.
What age range are we talking about here?
So say they're I don't know. Okay, say most people that are in the group say they're in their early 20s. Let's just keep it nice and simple. They're like 23, you've got a 23, 24-year-old daughter. She's wanting to date, she's ready to get married, and you're the dad advising her about, hey, these are the ones that I want you to stay away from. This is what is not best for you, and I'm going to protect you from these kinds of people that I see.
I'd like to jump in and answer that.
Go for it, Michael.
So, I mean, the first one I would say is the really charming man that has a whole string of consecutive quick ex-girlfriends. You know, if she thinks she's going to be the one that's going to change his history, the odds aren't in her favor. You know, she's probably going to be the next one in the line.
It's good. That's good. I like that. Yes, Brandon.
A couple things come to mind. First of all, I want to engage in conversation with whoever she's interested in and see how much he tends to focus on himself or talk mostly about himself instead of being about something else. So it's like if he's talking about her or he's talking about engaging in conversation with me, he's talking about the Lord as opposed to just everything is on his own focus. That would be something that would stand out to me. Another thing would be engagement in conversation, manners, like how do they talk, how do they show up, are they trying to show any kind of investment into the lives of the people around her? If he never wants to spend time with her friends or her family, it's always about her being with his friends, that to me is very selfish, and it's almost like he's trying to pull her away from, you know, what's safe for her. Bad manners, that's kind of just a pet peeve of mine. I don't know, like not everybody has the same standard of manners necessarily, but that's just the first things that come to mind. It's just like how do they show up, how do they interact, how do they engage?
I love that. Yeah, obviously you've thought about that a lot. Yes, Leif, go for it.
Yeah, I agree with Brandon. I think the word I would use is community. How do they do with community? Because community is really a safe thing for all of us. You know, none of us get into relationships or even get married knowing everything, but it's the presence of community that sort of helps us and reins us in and provides accountability, godly community. And so how does that person do with community? If the person really they just don't like community, if they have this nature of pulling people away from relationship, away from the church, if they're an isolator, that's not the kind of person I want with my daughter. And I would also say the ability to honor her very well, which means I don't want him worshiping her. I don't want him with no ability to say no, with no ability to stand, to actually on principle say, I disagree with you. That's a sign of codependency. That's not going to be a good partner for my daughter. But also, I want him to be able to serve her, love her, and lay his life down. I want that as well. So I want to avoid the extremes of where codependence would happen versus interdependence. I have a sense of self. I have a sense of who the community is. I have a sense of who you are, and I can navigate all three of those well. That to me is like the healthiest sign.
Come on.
I would say some of the biggest factors with me, if somebody was wanting to date my 23-year-old daughter, would be
Our 23-year-old.
yeah. Where's your purity at? Do you struggle with porn and masturbation? Do you have boundaries in that area? How are you doing in that area? And that's not to say that like if a guy struggles there, he's not dateable, but it is to go, hey, let's talk about this. Let's ask the question. Let's see, are you even willing to talk about it? Like
That's good.
Can you talk about it? Another one would be if our 23-year-old daughter brought home a 30-year-old man who didn't have a job. Yeah, that'd be a hard no for me. So really watch out, like who you're dating.
Can you tell us why they would be no's? Like why? What's the the point of masturbation? And
So with the job, it's hey, you can't even really take care of yourself right now, and how am I going to trust you to like take care of my daughter? And then I think another one for me.
Can you touch on the point of masturbation? Like, why would that be a problem for you?
Well, one, like, hey, if a guy can't manage his sexual appetite with like healthy male relationship, and he's going after women, or he's going to porn, like that's a huge red flag, because he's probably going to be willing to cross boundaries with my daughter. And
can I just ask you to clarify one thing? When you said if he can't manage his sexual appetite with healthy male relationships, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, so
I just want to clarify in case anyone doesn't understand what you mean.
So with that one, it'd be like, do you have friends that you're hanging out with? Do you have friends that you're like vulnerable with? And do you have a relational? Do you have the capability of being relationally intimate with people? Yeah. So those would be the questions I'd ask. And then another question would be, what's your game plan? Like if my daughter's willing to bring somebody over, like this guy should have a game plan. He should know that I'm going to ask a bunch of questions, and this guy should be ready to go, hey, here's my game plan. Like, here's my intentions with your daughter. Here's where I'm going. And just, but to have, he doesn't have to have it all figured out, but to have some kind of game plan on how he's going to date my daughter and where he wants to go in life, would be, and if he doesn't have that, I would say he's not ready to date. Yeah. I love that, because it's the woman is called to be the helper, and I find a lot of guys don't have anything they really need help in. So I'm like, I remember even when I was dating, I was like, so what are you called to do? And they'd be like, I don't know. I'm like, well, why do you want to get married? You don't really seem to need a helper for anything. And I'd be like, I'm like, the mission, the ministry, like if you've got no vision, what are we supposed, and I'm not saying it's not a subservient help, like don't hear what I'm not saying, but just like that's literally what the word talks about. And so I really love that was super cool. And now I know what our future kids have in store for them, so I can prepare them and be like, make sure he has a plan before you come around, because Nick's gonna ask. Does anyone else have anything? So Darren, Brandon, go for it. And then I want to hear from Darren, because he actually has 2 little girls, so he probably gives the best authority on this so far.
I'll be really quick. One thing that I forgot to mention that actually is a huge personal core value of mine is being submitted to some kind of authority or leader. So if someone does not have like a father figure, mother figure, some type of leader that speaks into their life, watches their blind spots, and has the ability to tell them no, or let them know that a decision could be poor or behavior could be poor, to me, that would be a big red flag, because then it's like my life is all about me and I do things on a whim to me, that's kind of scary. So that was something that came to mind.
That's so good. And also that it kind of ties into self-control. Like if they don't have self-control, I just flit from thing to thing, I don't have anyone that's keeping me accountable. Some people are very led by their feelings and their emotions. There's not a lot of wisdom there. And that's fine for them, but when they're dragging your daughter into the process, obviously you want to protect them from that. Darren, you have already talked about your beautiful girls. Obviously you have such a heart for them. You have to have such a daddy's heart and such a protector. What would you say? They're 23, they're ready to date, seriously looking to marriage. What kind of guy would you be advising them to avoid within the church?
I would say the kind that doesn't ask to meet me first. Because that's it sounds like so like old school, but I mean, it says a lot about like how you honor someone else's leaders. Like if what's an example I can give? Like Bill Johnson. I know this has nothing to do with dating, but Bill Johnson, there were a bunch of Indian what are they called? Reservations, like that were overtaken in the area of Redding, and they went and they actually honored them because they were there before Bethel. So they were kind of like the fathers of that
of the land, like they were like the original tribal owners before Redding kind of came and settled.
Even before Bethel. So I mean, all of it. But what he did is he went and he honored the fathers. So for me, it's like, hey, if you don't have the guts to, hey, I want to meet your dad. I want to see what he's like. I want to see what he thinks. I want him to know that I care about his daughter. It goes a long ways just asking to meet. Hey, I want to meet with your dad. It goes so long.
Yeah, I love that. And obviously, I mean, I think that might not necessarily be a one size fits all, but I love that anyone who is wanting to get to know one of your daughters will know how close they are with you and know that that's something that you value. So to not do it would probably be dishonoring. Whereas somebody else, and we're talking like a 23-year-old, so they're pretty, maybe still like around the home or like, maybe not like living across the country or in different places and, like 35, it's kind of different. So yeah, I really love that is something that you value. And like, again, being open to community, you guys have said a lot, actually inviting community. And if they're not willing to do that, steer clear of them. I feel like everything that you guys have said is really good. Yeah. So Amy said not everyone has a dad. So how does that work? And so, yeah, Amy, oh yeah, go Darren, go for it.
So it would go back to the thing that Brandon had mentioned, because I also was going to share that, but he took the words right out of my mouth. Having some sort of authoritative figure in their life that they're accountable to, but not even just that. If you haven't met someone who's humble enough to learn from someone else, you probably shouldn't be around them, because they're not going to be humble enough to learn from you. Mm-hmm. That's just the kind of the way I see it. And, that's what having that, we say authoritative. For me, it's a father having a mother. It's having a father. It's having, sometimes it's having many fathers. Some people have more than one father that mentors them and that leads them and that pours into their life. So that's a huge thing. Very, very rare have I found a guy that is amazing that doesn't have some sort of mentor. And I'm not saying it has to be his uncle. I'm not saying it has to be his brother, but someone that he's looking up to. It could be someone that he's never met. It could be Bill Johnson, could be Chris Valentin. But very rare have I found an amazing guy that I would allow my daughters to be with that doesn't have some sort of mentor that they're looking up to.
Sorry, you picked the right moment to stop when I was sneezing. So I was like, oh no, I can't even jump in. No, that's awesome. I really like that you guys have really put some thought into this. Does anyone else have anything to add to this question? Yes, Marcus.
Yeah, I would say there's a couple. So if cussing is a main part of your vocabulary, I don't know, bro. You can think of think of better ways to talk. that's like a pretty quick way for me to be like, I don't know if you are at the high standard for my daughter. And then the other thing is if they're not involved in good community, like, so basically my goal would be for my daughter to know these things so she could do it for herself. And she can identify these things for herself. Because at the end of the day, she's going to make her decisions regardless of what I think, because she's her own person. But basically, like, hey, yeah, what kind of communities does he have? What are his friends like? Are his friends people that build you up? Are they good men also? Like, because good men surround themselves with good men. Like, that's just the reality. Like, if you're a good man and you love Jesus, like, you're not going to be around derelicts of society. It's just the reality. Because you're called to that higher standard naturally, because you're living by the Spirit. And so along with that, like, follows the language, follows how, like, the things that you watch, your lifestyle, like, what is he surrounding his life with? What encompasses his life in general? And then I think, and the other one, like, I definitely agree with Darren with, like, talking to me, asking me about, I think that line would be a little bit down the road. Like, if it, like, hey, like, I'm actually really, really serious about you. Are you serious about me? My daughter would say, yeah. Okay, yeah, I want to meet dad. That's the next step. Because the other thing too is, like, I wouldn't want to meet him if he wasn't serious because now my daughter is in her mind thinking, oh yeah, he's met my dad. Like, this is the real deal. He's meeting my parents, and it's like, it's going along. Whereas he's just trying to get to know her more. And so unintentionally, by honoring her, by meeting me, and he could be setting her heart up to get hurt pretty good. And so it's kind of, it's tough. It's tough. But I would be, that my goal would be to teach my daughter how to identify that pretty quick with those things. Community, is he a disciple of Jesus? And there's a big difference between a disciple and a Christian. Like, is he actually walking the walk?
Yeah, so good. I love that. There's a teachability that comes with community, that comes with discipleship, like you said, as opposed to just being a Christ follower. Oh yes, I accepted Jesus into my heart, but am I laying down my life for him? Am I actively pursuing him? And I think that's what comes to community, and comes to a community. Sorry, there's questions coming in, so it's I'm just kind of reading them as we go. Thank you, Michael, so much. Michael's got to duck out. Have an awesome night, Michael. Thank you for all that you've contributed. You're amazing.
Cool. Hey, dude. See you guys.
See ya. I have a bit of a shift. So I have a bit of a shift of questioning, because I had something come up as I was thinking about the panel today, and I wanted to ask you guys if this has ever happened to you, and then how it made you feel. So have you ever had a woman that you have maybe been on a date with, or you've been getting to know, but they're in their head, they have a completely different story about what's happening? So like, you're thinking, hey, we're hanging out with friends, we're getting to know each other. They're like, oh my gosh, like, we're gonna get married. Like, I don't know, whatever it is, it's just way more because I know I did this as a single. I know this is something women do. So where we might read into something more than it is. We might assume something's bigger than it is, or there's more commitment involved than actually is the reality of the situation. And so I'm just wondering, like, has that ever happened to you? How did you handle it? And like, how did it make you feel? I know it's happened to you.
So that's part of the reason why.
Nick's smiling. He's like, wait, what? Oh, yes. No, we can.
The light bulb. You saw the light bulb go off in his head. Just kidding. So that's part of the reason why Marcus said what he said earlier, I would imagine. So that way you would protect the daughter's heart from not reading too much. Oh, well, he's met dad, and that's actually a really good point. But I don't know that I've had that happen to me from a woman's standpoint, but I've definitely had it happen to me, like from me, like me personally, like, you know, she was asking to go out, like I was picking her up, like all of this stuff, like we were, I mean, just together all the time. And I'm like, surely we're dating, or at least she wants to date. And so then like I popped a question and it's like, oh no, you're just a friend. And I'm like, dude, we're together like all the time. I do things for you that nobody else does.
Yeah.
So it's definitely happened on my end. And it's not fun, but you know, it goes back to that whole thing. Hey, look, you know, how much are they putting in? You know, how much are they doing for you? Or is it just you're putting in and you're getting nothing out? So it's not like you're trying to make sure that everything you're doing is validated by something that they do, because we know love is unconditional. But in the very beginning stages, it's very wise to just keep in mind like what's coming in and what's going out. You know, what are you putting out, but what also is coming in from their side.
Yeah, really good. I love that. And I know that the comment section is blowing up a little bit, so we will get to your comments, but I really do want to touch on this subject because I think it's really important, because I know as women, our minds tend to wander sometimes, and this is the biggest thing that I've been talking to my friends about and other girls, even women that I've been coaching, is staying present in the reality. And so, babe, maybe you want to talk about, without mentioning names, Nick has had this situation happen before. Yes, Soraya, clarity is key. Be clear on your intentions. Yes, being clear, but also keeping, I think for a woman, it's really important to keep your heart in the present. What is the reality that I know it as? What has he articulated? Then that's my reality, and that's all I know. So if he's like, hey, I really enjoy your friendship, cool, I'm going to stay in that place. I'm not going to let my heart get beyond. I'm not going to fantasize about what our kids are going to look like, or what our wedding's going to be like, or where we're going to live one day. And I know that's really hard sometimes because you do let your mind wander, but that really comes with like not guarding your heart. And I've heard stories, you know, people, you've been on one date and then they might go and hang out with somebody else and the person's like, they're cheating on me. And you're like, I think this was way bigger in your head than it was in the other person's. And it could go either way. So keeping things in reality and keeping it present is very important. And I talk a lot with the girls that I'm coaching about how to do that. But babe, do you want to speak to that a little bit and like what your experience has been and how it's made you feel?
Yeah, I mean, so
you can vaguely talk
I have
about
been on both sides of this, where I was really into a girl and we were hanging out a lot, and I thought it was going somewhere and it didn't go anywhere at all.
Was it me?
No.
Okay. Just kidding.
and like my heart was crushed for a bit of time with it. I've also been on the side of, oh, hey, like, no, I'm not there.
So hang on. So you went on a few dates and you're like, hey, I'm not there. Like, I'm not ready to like be in a relationship with you.
Yeah. So I went on a few dates with a gal, and it was fun. It was fine. But the more and more we hung out, I just didn't see us being compatible. And, which was fine at the time, because she said that she just wanted to be friends. Now, maybe she was just telling me she wanted to be friends because I don't know. But when we decided to stop hanging out, it was obvious that wasn't the case, that she wanted more than just a friendship. And when she asked me, have you been on dates with other people? And I said, yes. She did tell me that I was cheating on her. And
even though they'd agreed to just be friends.
Even though, so, and, you know, I think part of like my, like, what I did wrong in that was I didn't tell her that I was dating other people. Now, if I would have told her up front, like, hey, since you just want to be friends, I'm going to date other people and you're welcome to date other people. we might have not went through this big mess that we did.
I mean, I think it's probably assumed that if you're just going to be friends, you might date other people, but yeah, maybe clarifying it would have helped. Yeah.
But what does,
yeah, what does that look like?
But no, like, what does assuming do? It makes an ass of me and you.
Oh, yeah, okay. I'm sorry, I wasn't going to get there based on what does that do. I don't know what you're talking about.
So I just think like communicating intentions, and if like either guy or girl is scared of like, well, if I state my intentions and he or she doesn't feel the same way, I'm going to be heartbroken. Hey, it's going to be a lot easier to be heartbroken earlier on in the relationship than later down the road, and you've just held all this in for 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, and you've had all these feelings and this person has no idea.
Yeah.
So like just telling people where you're at in the beginning, it doesn't have to be the first, second, or third date, but like probably within the first month of hanging out with somebody, it's good to have like the real talk of like, this is where my heart is at. And when we have that talk, we have to be willing to allow our heart to be hurt. Like that's the risk. Like we have to be willing to go, this is where I'm at, and it's okay if this person isn't in the same place. I just need to share my heart and where I'm at.
Yeah, I think it's really important that clarity leaves not a lot of room for fantasy. And obviously it's on our side too. Whether you're a man or woman, I think we both do this. I just think women tend to do a little bit more to manage our own mind, manage our own thoughts, and to keep them in reality. Because I found more and more when things don't work out, at least from the girls I've spoken to, they have to mourn twice. So they mourn the reality, like, oh, I don't have this person in my life anymore. And then they mourn this thing that they had held on to, this picture that they had in their mind that they had so much hope for that wasn't based in any sort of fact or any sort of reality. Now they have to go through this whole mourning process of that as well. And I think for me, when I was younger, I had like a 3-month relationship that took me a year to get over, because he was talking to me about like the future, but I really let my heart get ahead of my head. And so when we broke up, it took me a year to get over it, because I was literally like, oh yeah, this person's not in my life anymore, but I was mourning everything else. And so I think it's really important with clarifying conversations, but also to manage our own thought life, manage our own personal internal world, to go, okay, I'm going to stay present. What is the reality as I know it? And that's all I know. And I'm going to stick with it. Yes, I might be opening car doors for me, but I'm not going to think we're going to get married. Like, I'm going to be like, okay, we're just friends until he says otherwise, until I ask for clarity. And he says, yes, I actually want to date you, or he makes a move or something. I'm going to assume we're friends until I have clarity on that. And then I can make an informed choice of what I want to do. Does anyone else have anything to say on that? When either you or the other person, I wanted to focus a little bit more on the other person so we can see like what happens on your end. But also if you do want to share like when your heart's gotten a little bit beyond the true nature of the situation and how it's felt, either being on the receiving end or the person that had those feelings.
So I don't necessarily have something like what you were just talking about, but something that came to mind, and I feel like it's worth sharing, is just the I'm pretty sure you guys have seen like that picture of Jesus. He's holding like a huge teddy bear behind his back, and the little kid is like clinging to the smaller teddy bear. I'm hoping everybody has seen that picture, because it would make sense to you.
It's beautiful.
And sometimes that's how it is with like people or like relationships. Like we cling on so tight to that one person that we thought, oh my goodness, they're the perfect person, they're gonna make my life just the best ever. And like whenever that person says like no, then they're like, oh, there goes my only teddy bear. So I just want to encourage the females watching this. God has got something just great for you in store, like better than what. Here's the reality. Scripture says that what no eye has seen and what no ear has heard are the things that God has prepared for you and I. So you can get to where you've like basically lived your next 10 years with said person. But I just want to encourage you that even when they say no, it's going to be better than what you imagined.
Come on.
Like it's going to be better than that, because, as a father, I don't just like, oh, sorry, sweetheart, you can't have that in a bag of chips. I'm sorry. You can maybe have one chip.
I love your Texas sayings. Can't have that in a bag of chips, because that's like the ultimate goal of like, oh, you would want that and a bag of chips, because without the bag of chips it's like, no, I don't want it, but with a bag of chips then it's like gold standard.
yeah but I mean, it's just
make everything better.
You can tell he's on a healthy eating kick, because he's all about
I'm sorry.
chips. Yeah, behind me say anyway.
Sorry guys, I didn't mean to tempt you. I didn't mean to bring this feast into y'all's house.
My heart.
No, but yeah, it's a thing, because you dreamt up the next 10 years with said person, and it's real. It's real for even guys, for us to be, there. Beck, I know you say women do this, but men very much so do this too. Yeah. I don't know to the extent, but I would say it's probably closer than you would think. I'm just saying.
No,
probably,
this is a peek into the world of men.
Yeah.
So please continue, because I did not know that.
Yeah, because I mean, you'll think about everything, like her parents, how amazing they are, and getting to know her dad. You'll start thinking of all this stuff and how family reunions are going to be. You love her brothers, you love her cousins, like all of that. But I would go back to this to what I was saying was, hey, there's so much more in store for you if that's not the case, if that doesn't work. The other thing that I'm going to say is, if you're trying to prevent not getting your heart hurt by them saying no, the reality is, even if they say yes, down the road, your heart's eventually going to get hurt some way, in some way. It just is, like through a conversation or through something that he wasn't able to do, just because we're human. We're not perfect. Men are not perfect and women are not perfect. So if you're not doing something to try and avoid getting your heart hurt, I would encourage you to just lean in and go after it. Like, let your heart be broken, because it's only through the brokenness can Father God like really come in and mend you back together. It's going to make you stronger. It really is, in the end.
And if it doesn't end up breaking your heart, you might marry the person. So it's like, to get married, it really does take risk. It really does take risk.
Yeah, it's a win-win situation. You get your heart broke, you fall more in love with Jesus.
Yeah.
If you don't get your heart broken, he ends up saying yes. Well, the funny thing is, your heart's still going to be broken in the future, because we're not perfect, and no relationship is perfect. You guys can attest to this. I mean, there's probably probably a few instances where you were like, oh, wow.
One or two.
Yeah, just a few. Well, let's be real. Yeah, no, it's so good. I feel like, what you guys are saying is so good and is bringing so much life. There's just some comments in the chat, which I think would be really good to just touch on, because I can see that some people are wanting some clarity around the role of community, the role of accountability, and the concept of speaking to a girl's father. So these guys are both, these guys are all amazing Christian men. So obviously they would want their daughter to bring a future partner to them. Now, if you, like, I don't have a dad who's a Christian. I'm not even in a relationship with my father for various reasons, and haven't been for many years. And so when we were going to get married, even before we started dating, I have a mentor that I go to, who I speak to. I have multiple people in my life who are my go-to people. I have community. Nick had his own community. He had his own mentors, who are like family to us now. We love them. We're going over to their house tonight. Every week for a year, we will go over to their house and they will mentor us post our wedding day. And they actually married us as well. So we made sure that we had community in our lives. And so the question of what happens if you don't have community, you don't have mentors, Gemma Stark said something amazing, and she was like, this is a great opportunity to go and get them. If you don't have people speaking into your life, or the other person doesn't have people speaking into your life, then for me personally, I would never have dated someone who didn't have somebody or a community actively sowing into him, speaking into his life. I felt like for me as a woman, that would put me in a really vulnerable position if there wasn't anyone keeping him accountable, if he wasn't seeking, if he wasn't teachable, if he wasn't seeking people to speak into what he was doing, how he was treating me. The most amazing thing about Nick is that, one of the most amazing things is that, he goes to men's group every week, usually, and he rarely misses it. He has men that he runs with that are very tight, very close. He has a mentor who's also a male, who he will journal and submit his journalings to. And this guy challenges him so much, and he grows so much through it. It is so much easier to trust in that, because when things get hard, you want people who will speak to both of you, right? Because I'm like, oh, we might be having a conflict. I'm like, oh, this is super hard. But I know he's going to go and process it with this person who's going to bring life and truth into the situation, and is never going to make it Beck's awful and she's terrible. And same with me. Like, I go and speak to my people, and it's super convicting. Like, hey, maybe you're not loving him as well as you should be. And that's the thing about community. They call us higher. They give us that accountability, and they allow us to see things that maybe we would miss if we didn't have them speaking into our lives. There are so many people. I think that I've heard so many times, like, if somebody who has ill intentions will try and pull you away from community because they're going to see in him what you don't, or they're going to see in her what you maybe miss, because you're all blinded. Oh, I'm so in love, and they're like, oh, she's this. Have you noticed? Or they're really selfish, which is, it might be a little bit cute. Oh, we always end up doing their thing. Yeah. I'll tell you what, in marriage, that'll kill you. That'll be the hardest thing to live with day in, day out. Imagine being sick. We've both been sick recently and had to serve each other quite a lot. Nick literally held my hair while I was puking my guts out. Like, I've never vomited like that in my life. I don't think. I was so unwell. And he was like cleaning up. He like made me dinner. Like, he literally looked after me. Praise the Lord that he's not sitting in selfishness going like, hey, handle yourself, hey, clean up the bathroom when you're done, all that kind of stuff. And we have people speaking into our lives because we both have a level of selfishness, but we've actually grown a lot in that, even in the last 5 months since we got married. And I think part of that is having community challenge us on things and speak into our lives. And so, yeah, with these questions that people have asked, I 100% would never have dated anyone who wasn't under accountability, who wasn't having mentorship, and wasn't having people speak into their lives. Because I knew if he was going to lead our family, I can't submit to somebody's leadership who isn't himself submitted to leaders and to elders and to accountability, and obviously to the Lord. But I feel like a lot of times too, if they're not able to submit to input from other people and leadership, they're probably more reluctant to submit to the Lord as well. So that's just my personal rant on that. Marcus, take it away.
I think a big aspect to this is it especially as women, like you get your things that are your requirements for the man that you want to marry, and you stick to them, and you don't let desperation take you away or off course of that. Because it's so easy to do that. It's so easy to especially if it's a good looking guy, it's so easy to be like, oh, well, he has these things, but he doesn't have this thing, which is massive. But he's really good looking, and maybe I'll just, and I really want to be with someone. It's like, no, the Lord has somebody for you. You just got to trust, because it's like you are relying on your own understanding. You're not trusting in what the Lord can do, and that's where my concept of time has really changed a whole lot of things. So much can happen in 6 months. So much can happen in a year. You never know. You can meet your person tomorrow. You just don't know. And so it's don't settle for the potential second best. You know, have your standard things that you are going to require in a man for yourself, you know, that line up with your values, and stick to them and don't budge on them. And, you know, and don't think that you can, you know, date to convert. That's such a bad game plan.
So bad.
Yeah. Anyway.
No, I love what you're saying, because look, I've even had, I remember being back in Australia. Actually, fun fact, I arrived in America like almost a year to the day. So when you said like anything can happen in a year, to go from being single as a Pringle to like dating, married.
There's another chip reference.
Chip reference? What's that mean? Oh, chip. Okay, yeah, I get it. Single as a Pringle. Oh, and chips. I get it. I thought you meant just in relation. He's so smart. You know, to like having a puppy, you know, and like it's just, and God can do anything in a really quick amount of time. But it also reminded me of, I had a friend in university, and she was so running after the Lord. Sorry, my camera went a bit fuzzy. Let me just do this. She was really running after the Lord. And I remember being like, I want to be like her when I've been a Christian for longer, because she was so on fire for Jesus. She had a journal, she'd journal every day, and she really seemed solid in her faith. And then what happened was she started dating a Christian guy who seemed super amazing. And he basically was like, they were dating for a while, and he said to her, you know, go and buy a dress. Like, I'm ready to propose. And she was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And the next week he broke up with her. And super, oh gosh, don't get me started. And so I started to go, oh my goodness, like, oh, Christian men, you know, especially Australian, like ungodly beliefs started to come in, which, praise the Lord has kind of quenched me off. But then fast forward, she like, no one will ever know her. I'm not going to say any names or anything, but she started dating this man who worked with her, wasn't a Christian, wasn't a believer. I think she was 23 or 24. He was like 50. And they got married, had 3 kids. And everybody was like, when they were dating, like, what are you doing? You know, community came around, and she was like, you know what? I just don't know if this is going to happen for me. I don't know when this is going to happen for me. I'm sick of waiting. Like, I'm just, whatever. Like, I'm going to get married. Actually, I think it was like 42. So it was like 20 years older than her. Anyway, so then they had a few kids, and I remember she reached out to me, and we just kept in touch, kind of thing. And she really walked away from the Lord for quite a season. And she ended up coming back to the Lord. And she said, you know, I can't regret what happened because I have my kids. But she's like, I go to church now on my own every day. Every time I go to church. Now she's preaching in churches. She is teaching. She's on fire for Jesus again. But it's a constant struggle. It's a constant struggle between her unbelieving husband. And she's like, you know, I missed God's best, I think. Even though he used it and he uses it for his glory, I don't believe that this is what he had for me. But I'm in this now, and he will use it for good. But boy, how incredible would it be to have a husband that wants to come to church with me, that wants to preach with me, that wants to do the work of the kingdom with me. And now it's a constant wrestle. And she can't be free to express her faith the way that she would want to. And I remember just being like, oh, if people could hear this, you know, God is such a redeemer that he can use anything. But oh my goodness, isn't it amazing not to have to need him to, and to choose his best, and to really walk and be equally yoked, like you were saying, Marcus. I just really wanted to share that story, because I just felt the Lord was on it. Like, sometimes we can try and do things out of desperation. I know I certainly have, like, I'm over this, I'm ready to take control. Things into my own hands. It like never goes well. Hey, Leif, yes. What did you want to add?
You're muted, Leif.
You're muted, Leif. But I love it. You were so like.
You're muted.
You're muted.
Okay, how about now? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to circle back to the whole idea of how we are handling breakups and things like that, because I've just been wrestling with this and something Darren said, and it's tied into what we're talking about. But so one of the things that happens when we go through a breakup and we go through this process is we feel hurt, and then psychologically in our minds, the terms of what happens is we can go, well, we feel hurt for that person or because of that person. And then what we do in our heads is we go, well, you know who is the perfect bridegroom? It's Jesus. Jesus is the perfect bridegroom. He's the perfect one. He'll never let me down. And if you do that enough times, one of the things that happens is you can actually start to build a hidden and unspoken resentment against the other gender. Mm-hmm. You can actually do this, where, especially in a revivalist culture, where we believe in healing, we believe that there shouldn't be any sacred cows, that everything is a candidate for healing. We can actually create a resentment towards the opposite gender. We start to idealize God and Jesus as a bridegroom, or it works for guys and girls. It can be, well, God's never gonna let me down. God's loyal. I've not found loyalty with the opposite gender. And then what happens is that follows us, and we can't actually take care of it, because to admit it in a revivalist culture would be to say that that something's wrong. I have an unhealed thing in me. And so I think it's really important that we do be able to invest and be willing to risk and be hurt, because the willingness to be risked is a sign. The willingness to risk is a sign that we love. It's a sign that we are capable of love. And I have to go through the brokenness, but then I don't want to idolize. I don't want to sort of idolize Jesus and say, well, he's the only bridegroom that I could possibly fit with because he's so loyal and he's never let me down. There are plenty of other people. We need to go back and say there are plenty of other people of the other gender that I fit with.
Oh, you're breaking up a little bit there, Leif. I love it because he's just going after it, but we can't hear you, bud.
Okay, no problem.
Oh, so, that part we heard. we heard the rest, but what you already said was so good. I'm sorry, I'm gonna mute you because it's just breaking up. Oh no, I can't. I've lost controls. Nope. I'm so sorry, Leif. We can't hear you. Brandon had something to share, but I love it. Leif just looks like he's super in the presence. I don't know if you guys can see him, but he's like, Leif, we'll come back to you if you manage to reconnect. Brandon, what were you going to share? We're going to wrap it up soon, but I really want to hear what you have to say.
Sure. I wanted to touch back on like finding mentors or leadership, especially when it comes to relationship. Granted, I know that's not always easy. Not all of us grew up with parents to kind of show us the way. Mm-hmm. I know I didn't. My parents divorced when I was 7. So I never got to see healthy marriage modeled at home. And for the most part, like in my adult life, my really good mentors and leaders were single people. So I basically was praying, and what I went searching for was a married couple that were living the kind of life that I wanted to live and had a similar heart to what I was passionate about. So I recognized that I just needed a married couple, a mom and a dad that were married to each other, that I could pull from one, so I could see how they modeled life, but also just to be like, ask questions about finances, about personal growth, about emotional health. And they were somebody that's able to stand in the gap and meet some of those needs and provide a model that I didn't grow up with. So I really want to say that I hope that if you don't have that, I just want to pray that you do find it, but just those people that model the life you want to reproduce in your life, and then they can show you how to get there. Mm-hmm. So I just really have a value for pursuing people who, they have what you want to have, and ask them to show you how they did it. I just want to leave you with that.
That's so good. Brandon, can you pray? Like, actually pray for us? I feel like that's
absolutely.
Release. Come on, we need prayer. We all need prayer.
Absolutely. Father God, I just release leaders, mentors, and married couples, fathers and mothers to that you would bring people into our lives that we feel aligned with, that we want to run with, that we want to serve and we want to receive from, so that we can learn from them, from their wisdom, and we can reproduce the fruit that they have in our own lives, God. I pray, Lord, for mothers and father figures, married couples, to come and stand in the gap and meet those needs for direction and leadership in ways that we weren't able to receive growing up, or that we haven't had in our adult life. And I just pray that it would lead to breakthrough in relationships and marriage and dating and improving upon the experience, because we have someone to pull ideas and get feedback and direction. And I just bless everybody with that opportunity.
Amen. Amen. So good. I feel like that's a great place to leave it for tonight, guys. Thank you to the panel. Thank you so much, Darren, Brandon, Marcus, Leif, and my amazing Nick. You guys have brought so much wisdom. I've just seen some of the comments, and literally one of the last ones was like, so good, so much wisdom dropping and so much honor. People are just saying thank you in the comments, and I know people are going to watch this even after the fact. And so thank you again for coming. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing what the Lord's put on your heart and just ministering. I really feel like this is a time of ministry for you guys, and really helping out both your brothers and sisters in Christ to see, like, hey, what a man thing. What are some ways to approach? What can we be doing? Leif's just dropped off. He, as you can see, he's driving, so he's probably hit a bad patch, but definitely wanted to honor him for jumping on. Even though he's in transit, he still made an effort to come, and that I definitely want to honor him for. And I want to honor all of you guys for showing up and giving your time to bless this community. So guys, we're going to end it there. Thank you so much, and hopefully we will see you next time.
See you later.
Bye. Give us a wave. We can end on a wave. Woo!